evening, good morning, good afternoon. Whenever you're listening to this, welcome to the internet's most sophisticated wrestling podcast, discussing the weekly aspects of it all, right here on
The Bald Monkey Wrestling Podcast.
Now we are here. I am checking my audio levels. We should be good. Welcome in. Welcome to the people hanging out in the chat to the Bald Monkeys podcast. Very special night. It's tag team night. And we're going to have folks trickling in. But to start, we have two gentlemen with me right now. Ricky Gibson of 4 Minutes of Heat. Hi, Ricky. How's it going?
Hello.
And then this guy down here, you might know from Ring of Honor. It's Brian, something about like beating people up and drinking beer. It's on the tip of my tongue, Brian. I can't remember. I'm sorry.
Brian Milonas?
That's it. Brian Milonas, my friend. How are you tonight?
I'm good, man. I'm here, ready to chat.
We really appreciate you coming to hang out. We have some other guests popping in eventually, but figured why not come into the chat, see who's hanging out. I saw Wrestling with the MMA in the chat. I saw a couple other people roaming around. But tonight's going to be focused on tag team wrestling. But because I have a little bit of time, we're going to find out a little more about Brian Milonas. And we're going to find out where you, Brian, started and what a young Brian Milonas was like.
Yeah. Well, I'm not all that different at 39 than I was probably at like 9 years old. I like sports. I like wrestling. That's about it. But I was a big fan. Grew up in the Northeast in New Hampshire, so WWF territory, Hulkamania, all that good stuff, and got my start. I had a buddy who. He had signed up for Killer Kowalski's school when we were in high school. And I used to go just kind of tag along and watch and just be in awe of it. And when I was 19, turning 20, finally decided to give it a go, to sign up in 2001, all the way back in 2001. Right after WCW and ECW went out of business, I said, you know what? That is an industry that I want to get into because there's less jobs than there's ever been. So I jumped in there, started with chaotic wrestling, chaotic training, similar to Killer Kowalski's School of Pro Wrestling. Pretty good class of guys that all of us came up together, myself, Ivar, the Viking Raiders, Tommaso Ciampa from NXT, Kofi Kingston's out of there, Sasha Banks is out of there, Oney Lorcan's out of there. Aaron Stevens, who was in WWE for a spell, came out of there. So it's a pretty damn good list of people I was able to come up with, train with, and even train a couple of them.
Yeah, very cool. And then Ricky, to remind the guests what young Ricky was like, because we still want to hear about young Ricky because we miss young Ricky. He hasn't been around for a little while. He's been busy out in the West Coast. We have both coasts here tonight so far. We've covered the East and the West. So Ricky, what was young Ricky Gibson like?
Exact same, man. When I was growing up, I wasn't into sports though. That was the only thing. I've never really been a fan of other sports. It's just been wrestling. Now I appreciate other sports. Like I could definitely watch like a best of basketball, football, like the incredible plays you see there. Like I love it and I appreciate that a lot, but I've never been into following it at all. But all wrestling. And when I was growing up, Oregon was completely dead. There was no schools at all. 12, 13, 14, I would sit and Google, or maybe it was Yahoo at the time. I would try to search for a wrestling school. And the closest thing to me was like Southern California, which was APW. So it wasn't until I was 16 that I finally like found a school. And much like Brian, very famous school, which is not true at all. There was no one there that you would have known that came out of there.
I heard a guy.
Cool.
I heard a guy. Ricky Gibson came out of there. There was a guy named Ricky Gibson.
That's the one. No, it was pretty cool. It was the owner's name was Tito, and he wrestled for like all over Puerto Rico, and he wrestled for WWF years ago. But it was downtown Hillsborough, so it was real close to where Roddy Piper lived. So on occasion, he would come by and check it out, and like he was always doing something for like filming a commercial or something. So like we got to hang out with him a little bit and get some pointers there. But that was really the only person you would ever know that's been through Tito's. But yeah, since then it's I try to hit up every school that I possibly can and learn as much as I can.
Now, as you guys are going through both of your careers, tag team wrestling becomes an opportunity that you guys both have seen. Brian, starting with you, how did tag team wrestling kind of present itself through your career?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I did up until I got to Ring of Honor. I was probably 95% a singles guy my entire career. I didn't work a lot of, random tag teams here and there, but nothing that was ever notable or anything like that on the indies. I just was mostly always a singles wrestler. How it came about in Ring of Honor was just I'd been the top prospect tournament, and I'd been around for a little bit. They would use me different spots here and there, and ironically, I wrestled the Beer City Bruiser in Lowell, Massachusetts, in a match, and people kind of like a light bulb kind of went off in people's head. Were like, because he was with Silas Young,
mm-hmm.
and Silas was doing his own thing, and Bruiser was always like this sort of tag along, with Silas, and they weren't doing a lot of tag stuff. But Ring of Honor was just introducing the 6-man titles at that point, so they were looking to do some trios. So that's how I kind of got lumped with Bruiser and Silas. They thought I would pair well with them. They saw the chemistry me and Bruiser had. And then from there, like Silas was still doing his own thing, and they decided to kind of pull the trigger on us, leaving him and going off on our own and, trying to be the bouncers. So it's funny. It's really only been a big part of my career, in the last 3 or 4 years or so. But prior to that, it just, I didn't do a ton of it. So believe it or not, it's kind of funny how life works that way.
Yeah. Well, an opportunity presented itself and you took advantage of it. That's really what all wrestling, I think, careers have come down to, being ready for whatever that next opportunity is. If it's a singles wrestler, if it's a tag wrestler, if it's a valet, who knows what it might be. But jump at that opportunity to get yourself out there and put yourself in some product that you can show them that you're bigger than what you start out as. So
yeah, I mean, it's just getting opportunity. I mean, everybody kills for that opportunity to be on TV, get a chance to do that. So, whatever it was, I wasn't going to turn it down. That's what I had waited my entire career for, to have an opportunity. So I was like, sure, like that sounds great. Let's roll with it.
Ricky, how about your story? So you were wrestling for a while as a singles wrestler, and I believe you had some other opportunities come up in tag teams before you found 4 Minutes of Heat.
Yeah, well, first I tried to be a valet, but that opportunity wasn't there. So, I stuck with wrestling, I guess. Yeah, I mean,
not the car driver valet, like the actual manager.
No, man, I did it all as well. So I started in 2004, and it was like, a couple indie shows a month kind of thing. Wrestled a lot of singles, but probably more tag matches than singles matches in my life. But so many of them were just with like random people. When I say that Oregon is dead, I mean that Oregon's like dead. So like there's been a handful of good talent throughout Oregon, and then there's been a lot of like the mediocre stuff. And I finally got a break to do a little bit of singles down in Vegas when Paragon Pro Wrestling came about. And it was a blast, but it was also like right around the time when Eddie Pearl was starting to train. And then like we became pretty much best friends, like inseparable. And like I had him hop in the car when I was driving down to California one day, and that was pretty much it. Like we pretty much have been inseparable since then. And tags like the thing for us. Like you said, when the opportunity is there, there's been a lot of companies that have reached out like, hey, we need a good tag team, because tag team's tough. Like it's tough to find two guys that look like each other, that work together well, that have a good chemistry there, and not just two guys that are thrown together, because anyone can throw together two guys to make a team. And sometimes it works and sometimes it just doesn't. But man, when we found out how well we work together and how well we could make it work as a team, like that was it.
It's interesting you talk about looking like each other, because I think tag teams started in that world back in the day, and now it almost seems like tag teams are kind of getting just pieced together, and they're trying to just find two guys that have a lot of talent and putting them together to see if they become a tag team or see if they have some chemistry. Sure. It's very different than what I remember growing up as the Bushwhackers, the Rockers, Demolition, Legion of Doom, the Smoking Guns, these guys that looked like each other, like dressed like each other, wrestled like each other. And I don't think we have a lot of that. And it shows when those tag teams come out and show their face in a promotion, you go, oh, cool, an old school tag team. And everyone, I think, kind of gravitates to that.
I think sometimes it works really well. There's been great examples of tag teams that you wouldn't picture them together. But I think you're right. Like when I think of like the well-known tag teams, it's always like they kind of look the same. Yeah. Funny story about that though. Like Eddie and I kind of look like each other. Like we both had mullets for a while. I clearly don't anymore, but yeah, he has very dark hair, very dark brown. I have a very light blonde, natural color. I have a lot of facial hair. He does not grow facial hair at all. I have a big tattoo on my back, and he has no tattoos. When we first started teaming together, he was actually my roadie. So he was just my manager at the time. And D'Lo Brown was the agent of those shows. And he really wanted us to do twin magic, where I would get hit with something big. I'd roll out of the ring. He would roll in and then like take advantage, like pin the guy or whatever. And it was the funniest thing, because I had black boots, he had white boots, and all of the other differences between us. But for some reason in D'Lo's mind, it worked perfect.
No one will ever see it coming.
Right?
All right. Well, let's take a quick breather right now. I want to talk about a couple things, but first we have to welcome in another guest. It looks like VintageDream, one of our Monkey Nation members, is in the waiting room. Let's let Vintage in. Vintage, I can hear you trying to get in. I can see a picture. Vintage is here.
I'm here. I live.
And right behind Vintage is our other Monkey Nation member, Valpancakes, is on the call too, and Val's sideways. Val's coming in sideways hot. Here we go. So everybody, welcome Val and Vintage to the room. We're already here with Ricky. We're already here with Brian. And right behind Vintage and Val, and I'm going to have to change his name for him. So hang tight.
Yo.
Oh, God, this guy, huh?
What's up, Brian?
What's up, buddy?
All of a sudden, we're going 6 wide. Well, I can't count. It's actually 3 and 3, but hey, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So, amazingly, perfect timing. We were just talking about tag team wrestling, how we got into tag team wrestling. I'm going to do a quick put over for what we're doing here today. So here at welcome to the Bald Monkeys podcast. If you've never watched it before, we're a couple of guys and lately a couple of gals that hang out and talk to indies wrestlers and try to put them over as much as they deserve. What we're trying to do over the next 12 days is support indies wrestling and support some of our alumni, like our good friend here, Ricky Gibson. So what we're doing is you can go in our chat. We got a donate button. You could donate, and all that money at the end will go to Indies wrestlers. We have 12 wrestlers on the list. Go check it out and support these guys that have been busting their hump all year. A tough year for indie wrestling, but I think one of the best years of Indies wrestling we've ever seen because of how you guys had to overcome and put on a different product all year long. So, Mr. Bear, should I call you Mr. Bear? Is that fair?
You can call me whatever you want.
Okay.
But yeah, Mr. Bear is fine, or just Bear or Joe, whatever you like.
So Bronson Bear of Bear Country,
Yes.
who amazingly just had a match, I believe, on AEW Dark.
Yeah, that's actually why I'm late. I was just watching it. I wanted to catch it quick because it opened the show. But yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Always excited to see guys getting an opportunity. Always excited to see tag teams getting an opportunity, and it's fun to see some of the different tag teams like Top Flight and now Bear Country on AEW Dark. So hopefully we'll see more of you in the future.
Thank you so much.
So what I miss?
So we're talking a little bit about where people begin. So Brian's given kind of his beginning. Ricky's reminded us where he started. So Mr. Bear, I would like to find out, what was a young little bear like?
So, I mean, like, how far back are we going here? Like, just start of like wrestling or start of like.
You're a kid. You're a little cub.
All right. Well, I mean, I've been watching wrestling for as long as I could remember, honestly, because it was always around my family. My grandma was actually a huge fan. But yeah, it was just something I always grew up around. And while everybody else kind of moved on, I always stayed. Like, because both my brothers are huge hockey guys. They're crazy, amazingly talented hockey players. But I always just, for me, it was always wrestling. And like, I played football in high school and stuff like that, but I was never really interested in anything else besides wrestling. And then I finally got my start in 2015 at Creative Pro Wrestling in Long Island, under Brian Myers, also known as Kurt Hawkins, and Pat Buck.
So there's some important questions that come out of there, and I'll let Vintage and Val jump in with wrestling questions, but I need to know, who's your favorite hockey team?
The Rangers, New York Rangers.
All right, so it was a great night, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yeah.
Oh man, a Ranger fan.
Dude, yeah, hell yeah, man.
How does that happen? How do you become a Ranger fan with all the failure that the Rangers had to deal with until 1994?
Hold on here. What fan are we? I mean, what are you talking as? Like, what are you?
I may or may not be a New Jersey Devil fan. I may or may not be a New Jersey Devil fan.
I'm like, is this an Islander fan trying to tell me right now?
No.
I was like, what's going on here?
Get that dirt off of me.
No, Devil's cool. That's cool. I got you. All right, I'll take it.
We'll have to trade hockey stories maybe after we start. Let's keep it to tag team wrestling for now, but we'll trade hockey stories on another.
Well, I
time.
can't tell you much anyway because both my brothers are the hockey guys. I'm like,
yeah.
I enjoy going and drinking at the games and having a good time. Like, I'm not
that's a hockey story.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah, for sure. But yeah.
So let's get more into tag team wrestling. Vintage, I know you had a couple things lined up. I'd love to kind of hear your take on a couple of hot topic items when it comes to tag team wrestling.
Well, where should I start? The biggest thing that I wanted to know from each of you is, how do you guys feel about the Freebird rule coming back, especially mainstream wrestling? And do you think that a lot of different companies should go to a 3-man belt, or should they just keep it as a tag team with the rule of Freebirds?
I think when it's appropriate, I think it's cool. You know, like the New Day doing it, and I think that's been a pretty cool thing. It's one of those things, though. I think if it started to become more frequent, or too many teams did it, it becomes another one of those cliche cheap things that doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot if too many people are doing it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sorry, no, you go, Ricky.
Yeah, I'll chime in real fast. I think that it worked really well with the Freebirds because they worked so well together. before you guys hopped on here, Brian, Chris, and I were talking about how it's almost tough to find teams that work well together anymore. Like to find two guys that work so well together. So, yeah, if everything else is right, it'd be great.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what you were saying because, like, I feel like it has to be all three guys in the team on the same level. I feel like I don't think it could be like the two tag team guys that are like the normal tag and then one extra guy. Like I feel like the New Day, for example, like they're all the like same level, like interchangeable. Like you can't really argue like, oh, they won the titles, but like it was because the third guy was in or whatever. Like it's always the same strength. So like I feel like it has to be like that. But I think it's like Brian said, as long as it's not like a watered down, if it's not an overused thing. But that's with anything in wrestling, like that's where it's special right now. I feel.
How do you stand out when you're, first of all, how do you stand out when you're a tag team member? But how would you stand out even if you were in a faction or in a trio? How do you put yourself over while not putting a detriment to the team?
I mean, some of it is taking a step back and doing what's best for the team. I think there's always going to be, it's kind of like the whole rockers, who's Sean, who's Marty kind of debate that seems to come up with every team. But I mean, the whole point of a good tag team is really, you're greater than the sum of your parts type thing. So you take a step back, you do what's best for the team, even if it's not necessarily what's best for you as an individual. I think that's what makes a good team. You're selfless. Both. I mean, and I'm talking both in a sense of within the match, but also everything else that goes along with this business. That's what really makes a good team.
Yeah, I agree with that. Absolutely. Like, and just to piggyback off that too, like I feel like because your initial question was how do you stand out, and I actually feel the best teams are ones that bring different qualities to the table. So I mean, you look at the New Day, right? You have the powerhouse. You have Kofi, who's arguably probably the most athletic, like not athletic, but the most
Innovative.
Yeah, sure. And you had like when I think of Xavier Woods, I think charisma. I think I mean they all have charisma, obviously, but just being extremely versatile, and he's actually kind of a mix of the two if you watch him. But I love that. Like I love when people have their own parts, and when you bring it together, it's one big. It's just something special, and if it's something like that, then I that's what I enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you guys both nailed it. Like you have to work together. You build off of each other. You fill in the blanks where your partner, is lacking. You shine where they don't, and they shine where you don't, and it works well. I don't know if you necessarily stand out, but as a team, you stand out when you do that.
Yeah, I think you put that best for sure.
Val, do you have any questions for our tag team specialist here tonight?
Not right now. I'm just here to look pretty.
Well, you're doing a lovely job, Val.
The lies you tell me, but no, I'm sure I will think of something along the way, and I will chime in when I do. Very last minute for me, so I appreciate just being here, really.
So I have another question for you guys. I'm a huge vintage wrestling fan, like NWA and on. Territory days, and I found back then with tag teams they had a lot of hot tags and they had a lot of build up within the match. I find a lot of wrestling now, especially some tag teams, it just feels like it's like just constant, like the whole pacing is just constant. Do you guys feel that they don't use hot tags as much anymore, and how do you guys feel about the pacing in tag team matches now?
I mean, I'll speak from a fat guy, so I mean, that whole pacing thing, yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean though. There was very, old school tag team wrestling feels like formulaic. There's a lot of, shine, cut off, heat, come back. Now I find the term that we use a lot is sprinting it out. especially in tag matches where, you have a short amount of time, whether it's, something we're filming for TV or something of, you get a short amount of time on a indie show. I think of working for like a place like Beyond where they would try to keep some of the match lengths shorter. So really some of that tag team structure is a little tougher, especially when you're trying to keep an audience engaged, especially when you're trying to keep them excited. So I'll say, it's funny to hear it from a guy that looks like me, but we do a lot of sprinting out of matches because they're 6-8 minutes long. Now I think if you have that 12, 15, 17 minutes, something like that, main event caliber tag match, you can break it down a little more. You can have more of that formula and slow it down, and pull the audience in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think Brian he couldn't have put it any better. And just speaking as somebody who's still like young in the business, like I've only been wrestling for 5 years, and when me and my tag partner, Bear Boulder, when we started tagging and we were getting over and beyond, if you look back at a lot of those matches, I look back on them now and we thought they were cool at the time, but they're just, it's teams of two doing moves. And like, yeah, sure, like it worked at the time and it got over, but it really wasn't our full, like, I actually hate watching them back now, but like because it wasn't until later, like that's where we kind of tried to get our groove, being a new tag together and stuff like that. But really, like talking to people and listening and just saying like taking it, scaling it back. So then when you're telling the story of this tag, it's going to make that stuff that you want to do even more special. Like, I wish I knew that going into it, but I'm glad that I'm finding it out all now, really. I feel like the formulaic route, like Brian was, I mean, it's more effective, especially when you have time and pacing and stuff like that. But like, again, what he was saying is a lot of indies now, like I know when we were starting on the come up, like it was a lot of like, hey, you guys have 6 to 8 minutes, can you like make it car crash style? Like, always, that was always the term, is like, can you guys make it like car crash style? Like, we're like, yeah, we'll just it was like basically filling in our moves. But it's stuff you learn along the way. But I mean, if you watch the crowds back then in the territory, like those crowds are hot, like they are, like that's what they want to see. It's the hot tag and some special stuff like that. So that's what I'm learning now.
I'm a huge fan of vintage wrestling. Like, I love old NWA, AWA tag team. And yeah, that style of like long storytelling where, man, when that baby face gets that tag, like you just can't help but feel just ecstatic and so excited. And I absolutely love that. But like both these gentlemen were saying, like in 6 minutes, it's really hard to tell that story. And sometimes that's just what's called for. And what's TV wrestling is a little bit different because there's a very wide, broad audience, and the company kind of has a direction that they're looking for. When you're in indie wrestling, it's very narrow. It's almost always like the crowd for a show is very similar from month to month, but you travel all over, so you see different styles. I can think of a particular weekend that we spent in Seattle, Washington on Friday that was absolutely bonkers. Everyone on their feet the entire time. Like, they wanted that car crash style, that sprint through it. That's what they wanted. The next night down in Oakland, California, they wanted goofy. They wanted to laugh. Like, they were drinking beer, smoking weed, like they were having a good time. And then the Sunday was like family audience. So it was slow it down and like tell that longer story. So it totally depends on your audience. If you try to go out, in fact, I've tried several times, bombed like a terrible comedian on stage, trying to be goofy, and just no one cares. And there's nothing more awkward than trying to get laughed at and no one cares.
Been there, man.
Part of it's the evolution of the business too, where, I mean, we are in the age of the GIF, like, like it or not, we're in the age of the GIF. And if especially when you think about, I think about shows like Beyond Wrestling, PWG, places like that, Limitless Wrestling. People are going there to get noticed and and to hopefully parlay that exposure into other things. So if you got 6 to 8 minutes, you better do something memorable that hopefully somebody wants to retweet, 200 times.
What is
Absolutely true.
and
So true.
Ricky, I'll start with you on this one. What's your preference to TV wrestling, or I'll call it house show wrestling or indies wrestling?
I would say, like, if I had to choose, it's TV wrestling. There's pressures from the camera, the pressure from the production crew. Like, there's just something that makes you raise your standards. But there's also something really, really fun about like a good wild crowd. Like, I don't know if anyone in this group has ever watched Hood Slam in California.
Yeah.
That's the one I was talking about, where everyone's smoking and drinking and dude, it's insane. What's that?
Oh, I sorry. I assumed that was probably Hood Slam.
Oh yeah. I would wrestle there every single night of the week. That and Defy in Seattle, those two, like, I wouldn't trade that for anything.
Bear, how about you?
So you mean like prefer as like a wrestler myself? Like, what do I prefer?
Yeah, what do you like? Because it's very different, as you guys have kind of talked about TV to working the camera, being able to work a crowd, different types of crowds. I feel like it's all a little bit different.
You know what? I mean, I mean, I've never worked TV, so like I can't even, especially pre-COVID, like, so I feel like TV now is so different than before COVID, especially with, like, I mean, just under the circumstances, it's just so different. Um, I feel like I have like half answers. So like TV pre-pandemic, I'd probably say that, just because, I mean, like, it's just, I don't know. I can't really put it better than Ricky did. I kind of agree to that point, to those same points he was making. But I think like guilty pleasure shows, I love doing bar shows, like Beyond shows and stuff like that. Like bar shows where people are rowdy and people are, just really just up the whole time. Like just stuff like that. Like, cause we have to remind ourselves every now and then that like this is supposed to be fun. And this, like, we're supposed to be enjoying what we're doing. And like those are the shows I've had the most fun. Like just going out there, let's just go and kill it, and we're all gonna have fun in the ring, and everyone's gonna have fun. And I don't know. That's where like I've walked out of shows and been like, yes,
Brian, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm probably more like in the vein of, like, I like a good slow burn. I like a good chance to tell a story. Not that I don't enjoy, and I keep referencing Beyond because I think to me, the Beyond crowd or Beyond Wrestling, what they are so polar opposite to like what like a television product for wrestling is. So it's a good basis of comparison. But those crowds are fun, but then you always kind of get those people that are just cynical. I hate cynical crowds. I don't like cynical fans. Like, I just, it's, to me, they're akin to the heckler of a comedian. I like Bears. I think it was Bears said, like, crowds that just want to have fun, be into it, be drunk or rowdy. Like, have a good time. Like this, it is really lost the fun aspect of wrestling, because there's so there's nothing worse than, and you see it at every level. It's this guy who's sitting in the crowd like this the entire time, and he's just grading, every movement. Like,
waiting with stars.
Yeah. Like, man, if I sat there or ever watched wrestling like that, I wouldn't. I just wouldn't do it. It's not fun. So it's, yeah, man. But I will say, definitely, to answer your question definitively, I'm definitely more of like a TV, let me tell a story sort of wrestling fan.
Kind of touching on like the fun of wrestling, what's like the most outrageous match you guys have ever been a part of? I know a couple of you guys and what you guys have done in the ring and some crazy matches, but like, what's the most outrageous that kind of sticks out in your mind? Like the weirdest stipulation match you've ever had?
outrageous, like outlandish, or
Like just 110. Like if it's like blood, it's blood. If it's Lego death matches, it's Lego death matches. Like what's the most outrageous, like in your mind personally, that you've ever been a part of, that at the beginning you're like, ooh, I don't know if I should do this.
for me is probably this past New Year's. It was Bear Country versus Team Tremendous at Beyond, and none of us are deathmatch wrestlers. Like we just enjoy hardcore wrestling, but we really did push the bar with that, just because we're all friends and we all we're being trusted with the main event on New Year's. So we, in the past 3 years of fans bring the weapons matches for Beyond, have all killed it, and we don't want to be the one that was like, that was probably the worst of the four. Like we wanted to be the best of the four. So as friends, we did things that we would never normally do. Like I'll never do skewers ever again, ever. But the shot of us, all four of us with skewers in our head, decide for yourself if you think that's worth it. But like stuff, I see Brian laughing, but like it just, I don't know. It's just at the time, it just felt like it, and it was, I mean, me and Bill Carr we had to look at each other. We both actually looked at each other in the match. We're like, you're bleeding way too much. And he was like, you're bleeding way too much. Like, this is not good. Like there's bleeding, and then there's like crimson mask bleeding. And, yeah, I'd say for me, that was probably the one that, like, off the top of my head was probably like because my parents watch everything I do, and like my mom was furious at me. Like, just admitting, like, it's just tacks all over my back, like the skewer stuff. Like, yeah, that was not a good time. But
how'd your trainers feel about it?
well, they knew the circumstance. So like, if I was doing death matches every weekend and like stuff like that, they'd probably be upset. But like, they knew who it was with. They love Bill and Dan and like those guys, and like they understand like the circumstance. And even Hawkins being a huge ECW guy, like he even like loves his own. Like, so he like, under the right circumstances, they love it. Even Pat too. Pat had, like, right before he got hired by WWE, he was having his little stretch of like F it matches where he was just like, yeah, I want to do tax. I want to do that, like, whatever, just because he just was kind of just needed to change something. I don't know. But for me, that would probably be my answer.
Skewers are for like meat, man. Like that, skewers are not for your head.
They hurt worse than they look, just saying. No, I hated it, honestly.
Oh man,
never again.
I had two back-to-back at Defy that were pretty wild. We wrestled the Jacob Fatu and Samuel for the Defy titles, and then and that was the All Violence is Legal. The very next match we had was Damien Sace and a local guy as his tag partner, and that was also like anything goes. Those were kind of wild, but when I was, I think I was 18 years old, I had a match on a show in McMinnville, Oregon, like in like small town, but because they never ran there, it was like everyone in town would show up for these. And the promoter just had a ton of money. He was probably a drug dealer, like that kind of thing. No one knew where he got his money from, but he was bringing in everyone. Like on the specific show, he had Al Snow, Rikishi, and Al Snow wasn't announced. He showed up like to do a match. Raven was there, but New Jack was there, and he was doing a New Jack match, of course. Mm-hmm. And we were in a tag team match that was the lights out, like after the show, unsanctioned, and all four of us were like, well, New Jack's here, so we got to step it up if we're gonna be the main. And we got stupid, like it not death match, like there wasn't a ton of glass, but there was a couple light tubes, and there was the worst part ever, and the worst pain I've ever felt in my life was my trainer made a thing of barbed wire, like this feet long, this long, with 9 strands of barbed wire taped together as a whip. So a cat of 9 tails made of barbed wire. And getting hit with it sucks because it's heavy, but then when you rip it back, it's the worst thing. I hit my trainer with it once. He said, "Fuck you, get that thing away from me." And the other dude, no joke, the other dude hit me like 15 times, and I couldn't say no. I was just, fuck. It was terrible. And speaking of like, someone watching and hating you, my girlfriend at the time, now she's my wife, but she was watching, and she was very upset with me.
Yep. Had that leave scars?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I have one on my forehead. The ones on my back you can't really tell, but I have one on my forehead that's, it's never going away.
Yep. Damn.
So I'm very okay with being the least hardcore of the three of us. I am very much a sports entertainer. So I've only bled once.
It could be like
I'll go with the Mets. I mean, they told these really cool hardcore stories. So I'll go with the one time I bled. That was last year, Ring of Honor, Death Before Dishonor, Barroom Brawl. Bruiser got darts in his back. There was no way I was doing that.
Oh my! I saw that. Oh my god!
I got pool cue in my head. Took a table bump. That's about it. I'm not going to make myself popular here, but I don't like deathmatch wrestling. Bear, I watched about 3 minutes of your match. I was like, I can't watch this. It's just not my cup of tea. God bless those who choose to do it, who choose to watch it. So not my cup of tea in any way, shape, or form.
Really hard to sit through. Really hard.
Yeah, I do think there's a measure of it. I think it's a very niche thing, but most people are going to watch it. The average fan is going to watch it and like start to. I mean, we're human beings too. Like I get like that we're professional wrestlers and stuff, but like this shit hurts. Like all of it hurts. So I think there's a measure of that. I mean, me just bleeding was so shocking for everybody that I came up with, my family and stuff, because they've never seen it before. That there was a big uproar, just me getting a little color. Yeah, I guess that's probably the craziest I've ever been in. I've taken only a handful of table bumps. I've taken one ladder bump in my entire career. So, I mean, sports entertainment Brian over here.
Well, if the question wasn't about hardcore and it was just goofy, a couple years in a row, we did a show called Hunger Slam, and it was a 24-hour, it was 26-hour marathon. So we did wrestling matches for 26 hours. And there was some people came in and left, like wrestlers would show up, do a couple matches and then leave. But I stayed the entire time. Like I was helping run. We were running charity, giving food to the Oregon Food Bank. And just a couple goofy matches that we had. We did a energy drink on a pole match. So that was there. We did a sleeping bag match. So instead of a coffin, it was a sleeping bag. We did a extreme thumb wrestling match. So that went all over the building. Yeah, there was a lights out match where we just actually turned the lights out and two guys wrestled in the ring. It was all sorts of goofy. Unfortunately, there's like no footage of this, but it was one of the most incredible nights. 2 years in a row, one of the most incredible nights we've had.
It's amazing.
I did wrestle Hornswoggle in a cage last year, so there was that.
There you go.
Yes.
That's great.
That's pretty outrageous.
I had to literally help him into the cage. I lift him into the cage because he couldn't get in.
Needed a boost.
He did. We talked about it. He told me, "You're going to have to lift me into the cage." I said, okay.
That's unbelievable. I know I'm going to think of one later and be like, damn, I wish I said that. The cage is so great. That's so funny. Oh my God.
So so you guys are talking different stipulations. Do you guys have a favorite stipulation of a match that you've had? And it doesn't have to be hardcore. It doesn't have to be goofy. It could be any stipulation whatsoever. Like just your favorite stipulation to work. Not energy drink on a pole match. It doesn't have to be that. No.
That was fun.
It could be coffee instead.
As far as tag team matches go, like I'm just a sucker for just standard tag match. Like that really is my stipulation, my favorite. Like no stipulation. In singles, if it's like a stipulation, I really like the strap match or dog collar, so like that style. Like I've had a couple of those that are just absolutely a blast.
Yeah, I think those like the dog collar matches and things like that. They're I think they're really fun especially from like a worker standpoint of like, because you have to get real creative. You have to get like, because you're confined. You're literally confined by the stipulation of like, we're tied together. Like, how can I make this? How can I make this interesting? I'm right with you there. I love that stipulation.
Yeah, same for me. Like I love, besides like Ricky said, besides like tag team wrestling, when I did singles, I loved dog collar matches, because I've done both hardcore dog collar matches, and I've done one where there were no, like, they were like, no, we don't have any gimmicks for you guys, and like it's just straightforward. Like I've done like just straightforward dog collar, and that's where, like Brian said, like that's where you really have to get creative, and it's like, oh, like we can't just do gimmick bumps and stuff like that. It was like, oh, we're actually going to use the chain to like maneuver each other, and like those are a lot of fun, especially when you walk out and you're like, oh, I feel okay, awesome. Like
that's the secret, Bear.
Killing the business.
You're supposed to walk away from this stuff and work the next day.
Yeah right. Not doing, the secret is not doing one with Dan Moff. That's I've done one with him, and that was whew. But
Dan Moff hit me so hard with a cannonball one time in the corner. Like I thought like I was gonna turn inside out. It was just the one tag match. It was actually me and Ace Romero versus the Hit Squad, Dan Moff and Monster Mac, and I don't know, man. That may have been, that cannonball from Dan Moff might have been the hardest I've ever been hit in a ring.
Yeah, I've seen him break the bottom rope with that. Like, and people just lose their minds.
Yeah. Oh, it's because it's devastating. Legitimately. Yeah. Devastating. I think that's the funniest thing with like people watch wrestling like, oh, it's fake, or oh, they're not really hurting each other, and like, oh, how did you do this? You really did it. It hurt like hell.
Yeah.
How did you do that? Well,
have either of you guys worked with Jacob Fatu?
No,
I've worked shows with him though, and he's in like, he makes me feel like I should quit. Like,
he's incredible. He's also incredibly strong.
Yeah.
And luckily this isn't my story, but it's my tag partner's. He sets Eddie down in a chair, hits him a couple times, and goes oos, and then backs up, and then just running cannonballs him and just squishes him through the chair onto the ground, just flat as a pancake.
Oh, that's awesome. Probably.
Damn. So is there, along those lines, is there a move that you guys just hate having to take, or even hate having to do? Like, because I know sometimes it's not only moves that you have to receive, sometimes it's moves that you actually guys are doing too that could put a strain on your body.
Me, it's taking double stomps. Like, I don't want to take them. I don't want to suggest it to me. Get it out of my face with it. Like, I just, and I know there are guys who can perform it safely. There's probably a short list of people who I'd be willing to take that move from, but to me, that's one of those, like, there's no way to protect yourself. Those are the types of moves I really don't like, where there's no way to protect yourself. There's no way for, any of this stuff being a half a step off can have really catastrophic consequences. But the ones where there's kind of no out, there's no safe out for that. If somebody just decides or just is off with it or misses, like, that's one that could hurt you real bad. So that's a pretty big non-starter for me, that move.
Yeah, I'll second that. Double stomps are I'll take them. Normally I'm wrestling smaller guys, so like, it's not as bad, but there's one, like, I'll take a leg drop all day. Top rope leg drop scare the crap out of me, because of one time a dude did a top rope leg drop and just square on my head. And the dude was small, but goddamn, that's a lot of weight coming from the top rope.
And there's so much time. Like you feel like when you're laying there, it's an eternity.
Yep.
Those guys coming down.
Like, yeah, that's gonna hit me. That's gonna hit me.
Time just slows right down.
Time stops. They're
worst.
moving like,
Yep.
Yeah, I honestly I don't know. I'm sure ask me in another 5 years and I'll probably give you a list of things, but like I love taking back bumps and I love taking front bumps. I would say anything like I don't know, like it's weird because I love giving pile drivers, but I hate taking them. But I do anyway because I would never give somebody something I wouldn't take. You
Who the
know?
hell's giving you pile drivers? Jesus. we can have a talk after this.
I know. Luckily, it's not too often, but yeah, I don't know. Like it's weird. Like especially just the normal classic spike pile driver. I feel like, especially when I was first taking them, I was like, all right, I'm excited to see the secret behind this, and then it's like, oh my god, there is no secret. It's just getting drilled on my head. Like, but yeah, I would say that. Maybe yeah, I don't know. I really don't. Probably double stomps. I mean, they always suck. I'm afraid my stomach's not going to hold up. I have a very sensitive stomach, and if I get double stomped, I'm probably not going to hold up. So use your imagination on that one. But yeah, that would probably be it.
We got it.
Yeah.
So I know that you guys all have your typical normal tag team partner, but have you ever had to tag with somebody like on the fly that you maybe weren't as familiar with? And how do you feel about that? And how did it go?
Yeah, I mean, a lot over the years, and it's a mixed bag. A lot of it really depends on the person you're working with. If it's somebody who's capable or good, or I'll not even just that, but there's a selfless aspect to tag team wrestling. So I've been involved in tag matches where somebody just wants to do it, oh, you guys are teaming tonight, okay, and they just want to do everything. So all right, well, I'll stand here on the apron. So it's I will say it's tough to develop any sort of chemistry, any sort of cohesiveness, because that doesn't come instantly. So I've done it a lot, and I'll say it's not my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And I've never had any bad experiences, but it just, especially with it being on the, like usually on the indies, because it's just kind of two guys thrown together sort of thing. It just kind of feels weird. You're usually coming out together sort of thing. So, and if you've never been out with this person before, they're doing their gimmick, you're doing yours. And it's just two things at once. And it can just feel weird. And then in ring, if you're not on the same page, it kind of just feels like two singles wrestlers are wrestling at once and not a unit, So I haven't had that too often, but when I have it, I don't normally enjoy it.
Yeah, I've definitely gone through my fair share of just thrown together tag teams, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Brian was talking about like it's very selfless, and not as a tag team, but as a six-way tag. A couple of weeks ago for Primetime Live, the day of the show, they decided to make it a 6-man tag because they needed to move some stuff around. And Will Allday from Texas was thrown on our team, and immediately the three of us just like, hey, what's important to you? What's important to us? And figured it out. And I couldn't have asked for a smoother 6-man tag. Like the three of us worked really well together. The three of them worked really well together. And sometimes it just clicks really well, especially when your first thought is like, how do I make your thing work? And they're thinking, how do I make your thing work? And as long as everyone has that mindset, it works well.
All right, let's talk championships, because I'm always interested, like, what's everyone's favorite championship, either past, present, whatever it might be. And since you guys are tag team wrestlers, I would hope that there's a tag, it's right here if you could see it, It's back there. The tag team championship is one of my favorite belts, but I'm curious what your guys' favorite belts that you've seen over the years is. Ricky, what do you think?
Oh man. I'm a sucker for the classic TV title from like old school, like right before WCW, even in WCW, but Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, like that TV title.
Brian?
I mean, I will say it is a tag team belt. My favorite is that 80s era WWF tag team championships, British Bulldogs, Hart Foundation. Those are beautiful titles. Those are perfect. Those should be still on TV. Perfect championships.
Truth.
For me, actually, because like probably one of my favorite eras in wrestling to watch, like just even like on an everyday basis, is I love the Ruthless Aggression era. It's just my favorite in-ring stuff. It's my favorite, pretty much everything. And I pretty much grew up on. I always loved the look of the Intercontinental title. But like I love the classic one because how could you not? But I love the one that like Orton held, and like that kind of the Globe one. I don't know. I loved it, and I loved the Undisputed title, the Lesnar one.
Like the first version of that's like gigantic was so awesome.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably for me.
That's better for the bigger guy too, right? When the plate's bigger, you feel like you can actually like wear the belt.
Yeah.
I've never been able to wear a championship belt, so I have no frame of reference for this.
It looks cooler over your shoulder anyway. Don't worry about it, Brian.
So funny story about wearing a belt. I'm a smaller guy. I've never had a problem with that. But Gangrel was coming out, and I hope he doesn't mind me telling this story, but it's hilarious. So
he was
coming out for shows. He was coming out for shows in Oregon all the time, and he was the champion at the time. And right before he goes out, he's like, "Hey, would you mind buckling this for me?" And he sucks in, and I get it literally on the last buckle, and I was like, "I got it, but it's only one." He's like, "All right." And so he goes through the curtain, boom, it just falls off, like instantly falls off.
Oh, I love Gangrel.
He's the man. He's the man.
Dude, that guy still goes like.
Oh, every time.
He goes every so time. Hard. He loves taking that clothesline on the straight floor, even if it's concrete.
Every time.
Every time. Loves it.
He's one of like the coolest guys just to be around the locker room too. Like he's so personable and like giving up his time and opinions. Like one of the coolest like old school kind of names that still are out there performing, like bar none. Gangrel, like every time I've been in the locker room with him, so cool, so awesome.
Absolutely. There's very few people that will, like, without being asked, give you feedback on your match. Like, of course, a lot of people, if you say, "Hey, watch my match and give me some feedback," they will. But like he'll watch every match on a show, and he won't bullshit you. But he's not mean about it. But he will give you feedback every single time. And it's absolutely incredible. And like you said, like he puts in 110% every single match without question. There's never a time where he phones it in. It's amazing.
And he's just built differently too. Like there are guys that like, I look and I'm like, even just after all these years, like he's just got those like lungs of steel. And I remember like when I worked him, he was like, "Hey man, just so you know, it's kind of cold in here and I just might need a second in the ring," whatever. And I was like, I mean, I'm no Steve Austin either, so I'm not gonna be running around you know, like whatever. And he just was totally just did, like you could have just disregarded that because he was going like he has like lungs of steel for such a big dude too, and he just his like the way he moves around a ring still, like even just like I just feel like guys like from his generation are just built differently. Like guys are warriors, man, machines.
So you mentioned feedback. Is there a piece of feedback that you guys keep with you that you remember, something that maybe drives you or something that just you appreciate that someone was willing to give you either tough love or just some good words of advice in your career so far? Bear, we'll start with you.
Sure. I don't have any specific like something that someone told me that like whatever, like coming up, it was always just gotta be more intense, gotta be more intense, gotta be more intense. And then like I just kind of built up on that. But just the guys that trained me, like I could just always go to, because guys like Brian and Pat, like Pat especially, like they're no BS guys. Like they're not going to tell you what you want to hear. If they have a compliment for you, they'll give it, and they won't be afraid to give it. But they're not going to beat around the bush about it, just because they want to see their, like they want to see you get better. So like they don't want to just tell you like, oh yeah, it was great, man, whatever. Like it was that. Those are guys like Hawkins, Buck. I always go to if you know Alex Reynolds from the Dark Order. I go to him for everything, just because he is so unbelievable. Like just with how naturally talented he is and the experience that he has under his belt. He's just always a straightforward guy. So, and he always, something I appreciate too, he always goes out of his way to watch, even if I don't ask to. So like, it's just one of those deals. And he's always just got stuff for me. Like, hey, just want to let you know, like you should, if you watch the match back, you should watch this, cause this could have been way better. Like, and he has like one of those guys too, that has a mind that where like, he can just take something you did and go, yeah, that was fine, but it would have been way better if you did this. And he just kind of one of those guys whose minds just goes, you know, and just fires off because the stuff he's just thinking about all day. Mm-hmm. But yeah, those are guys that I just go to for everything.
Ricky, does anybody stand out to you or any feedback you've ever gotten?
Yeah, man, I really appreciate feedback. And I take most of it to heart. It's really hard to explain in this scenario though, because like almost all the feedback is like, you'd have to be there to understand. Like there's small things like more intense or slow down or speed up or, you know, all those things. It's hard to explain those without really pulling back the curtain and then like really being there to see what it was. But a piece of advice that Piper gave me, and I'm paraphrasing obviously, but was like, there's going to be a lot of people, times, hard times, or like situations that are going to make you want to stop. But if you love it, don't let those. And that was the feedback that always stood out to me, is like, if you love it enough, you're going to push through all the bullshit and make it happen.
Brian, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was something my trainer stressed a lot. That was just take care of your name. You know, first impressions matter. How you conduct yourself in locker rooms, how you conduct yourselves in the ring. Make sure you're always a professional. Kind of like, you know, bring your lunch pail or bring your briefcase to work kind of mentality. And really, again, it's just taking care of your name, being a professional, being a good businessman, honoring your word, honoring your bookings. You know, things of that nature. I think it's just it's amazing in this business how there's so many people, yet it's so small. You know, I'm sure, you know, Ricky and Bear can attest to, like, how many people do you know that work for every major company in the world that you could pick up a phone and call, and all it takes is like that one bad impression to the wrong person. You can really set yourself back. I've seen it a lot. So that is probably the thing that I've always really taken to heart. And that's just take care of my name. Make sure I'm a good person. Make sure I'm a good businessman.
All good advice. Yeah. All right. So your partners aren't around, so it's okay to ask this question. You can tag with anybody. Who's it going to be? And it can't be your current partners. Who are you going to go into that big match with? Who are you going to go call and say, hey, we got a championship shot. I need you here. Brian, we'll start with you.
Anybody ever in history?
Anybody. It's wide open.
I'm calling the Hulkster. I'm calling Hulk Hogan. I mean,
all right. Well,
who else am I going to call?
Which Hulk Hogan?
Oh, I mean, I'm calling, 1987, body slamming Andre the Giant Hulk Hogan. Okay.
Are you going to wear matching
I'm
tights?
replacing your head as the Macho Man. I'm replacing the Macho Man in the Mega Powers. Okay, like I'm the other half of the Mega Powers.
Are you wearing the matching tights? Are you wearing yellow and
Yes.
red tights? And
Of course, I'm also built like Savage and have Elizabeth by my side too.
oh, okay. Bear, what about you?
Better say me.
Right.
You didn't say him.
You're probably who we're facing. So. You guys are probably who we're facing, so I can't pick you.
You're not facing the Mega Powers. Come on.
For me, the two guys off the top of my head that I loved when they were in thrown together tag teams and actually won the titles were probably Steve Austin and The Rock. Like I loved when Steve Austin and Shawn Michaels were thrown in that tag and they ended up winning the tag titles. Like I loved that. And same thing with The Rock. Like so, or even just like I loved The Rock and John Cena versus Miz and like R-Truth, like stuff like that. Like I think those matches actually are really fun, especially when it's those guys, because like if that's kind of the story, or is like those guys are thrown together. So probably them. And I just love Steve Austin and The Rock. So
Can I tell you how much fun it is to listen to like the different eras of wrestling and like who loves what, and it's all good. Like there's no downside or bad. Like it's amazing to hear like, you know, from the Hogans to you know, newer Austin, Rock, Shawn. Like I love it.
I don't know how old you are, Ricky, but Bear talking about growing up watching the Ruthless Aggression era. I'm like, hey, I was already in the business. I was already in the business during the Ruthless Aggression era.
yeah, like I trust me, I don't want to make you feel old. I hate when I do that, but like Ruthless Aggression era, I was in elementary school, so like that's what
Thanks.
Yeah.
I was doing WWE extra work in the Ruthless Aggression era. Thanks.
Oh man. Oh my God.
Dude, I'm calling up Bobby Eaton in his prime.
Oh, all right.
Hell of a choice.
Yeah, dude, Midnight Express is my jam for sure.
So good. So good.
And it's so that'd be so confusing too, right? Like you got Bobby Eaton and Ricky Gibson, and it's like, wait a second.
Yep.
you got to be. So I'm not. You know, I know the history of wrestling. Wasn't a huge NWA fan, but when I see Bobby Eaton as just used as a straight up jobber in like the Nitro era, infuriates me. It absolutely infuriates me.
So I didn't start watching Bobby Eaton until I was already wrestling for a while. And of course, like Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express, like that's what I studied for tag team wrestling, if you couldn't tell from watching my matches. I love that. And it wasn't until later when I saw him in like WCW jobbing, and it was just depressing, the difference. But
he's one of the most underrated guys in history. Bobby Eaton is so
absolutely
freaking like people go watch Bobby Eaton. Bobby Eaton is like another level good.
Like I said, like built differently. Like
just
built differently than we are. Like
insane. So good.
So since you all have different like wrestling histories, like what you're passionate about in different eras, if you had to show somebody who wasn't a wrestling fan a match to be like, this is what you're missing, what match would you show them?
That's a good question.
That's a solid question.
Because I've had to do this so many times. People are like, I'm not a fan. I'm like, oh yeah, watch this. And they're like,
I guess it depends on how much time I have. If I could show them any match and they would sit there and watch that, the Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express, any one of their like real matches, not their gimmick matches, but like their tag matches together, that tell that full story. And like I was saying earlier, when Gibson finally gets the tag and comes in, just house of fire, the crowd's on their feet, like you feel it, you want to be there. It's absolutely incredible. That's, if I had all the time in the world and they would watch it, that'd be the one.
You know what's funny is I think it also depends on who I'm showing. So, for my dad, for example, him and I like, so even though I grew up, I mean, I'm only 25. I do my best to brush up on my history because I just don't want to, and I don't knock people. Like there are plenty of people in the business that will have no idea what you're talking about. Like, and that's fine. That's totally okay. I just want to, like, just because, I mean, I watch wrestling every day anyway. So like, I want to know, like, I just want to know these things. But like, so like my dad, we'll watch old stuff, Midnight Express, all like, we'll like old WCW, like we'll go back and we'll watch that stuff and just kind of reminisce. But if I was showing somebody like if I was showing like my younger brother, like always loves watching. I feel like it has to be a gimmick match. It just has to be like, I mean, I love showing people like love showing like the Hardys. The Hardys, I feel like always connect to younger people, even if they hate wrestling. Like if somebody even like actually hates wrestling, I feel like if you show them the Hardys, they just have that connection with young people, even today, and they're not young anymore. They still have that like connection with them because they're so fresh with everything they do. Yeah, like fun stuff, like at least at first, just to get them hooked in. Like I feel like it has to be like like the triangle ladder matches or the TLCs, the first ones, like Dudley's, Edge and Christian and the Hardys, like stuff like their matches, all their stuff, even if it's not gimmick, like even just all their matches in general are just so fun to watch. So probably stuff like that, or just me being a mark for Steve Austin. I'd probably show, just because of how electric he is, like probably something like that.
Yeah, mine is my two favorite wrestlers of all time. Again, I love sports entertainment, but I think the reason I would choose this match is because of the magnitude of the match and just like the crowd participation. I get chills every time I watch it. Hollywood Hogan versus The Rock, WrestleMania 18. Unreal. I get goosebumps watching that match because I think as a performer, that reaction, like the reaction of that match and the how invested, what was it, 60,000, 70,000 people are all hanging on the edge of their seat. And you watch it, it's not a technical classic. It's not, it's not Rock and Roll and Midnights, it's not Savage Steamboat, but everybody in that place, from the guy in the cheap seat to the guy in the front row, are just hanging on every move. Mm-hmm. Just goosebumps watching that match. Just so good. And for me, I think giving a show to somebody who's never watched pro wrestling before, and for them to see just kind of the electricity of that moment and the crowd reactions, and would just be, I think be something like, whoa, what is this? I think they would instantly know, like, wow, this is a big, like if they've never seen those two guys, they would know, oh, these guys are a big deal. Like, I love that match. I've seen that match probably more than any other match in I've ever seen.
My partner, Boulder, Tommy will, when we watch that match, like together, if we're just having a beer or something, like watching the match, when Hogan hits the leg drop and you hear on commentary, he beat Andre the Giant with that move, Tommy will grip his chair, like, and have goosebumps running all over his body. Just be like he just can't take it.
That crowd was, I think it was Toronto. Like that crowd was just insane. Like that's what we do this for. That's what before, Ricky, that's what we do it for. Like I when I was a little kid growing up wanting to do this, like that's in my mind, like that's, that reaction.
Have you ever had like that pinnacle like feeling in a match? Like has there ever been a time where you've been in a match and you're like, man, this is it. Like this is that feeling that you wanted for so long? Have you ever had that kind of moment that you can remember?
Not to that magnitude. I'll say Work in the Garden. My
God. That's so unbelievable that you did that.
You sold out.
That was unbelievable. That was, I think more unbelievable than anything was the afternoon. And I knew it was in the match. Obviously I knew it was booked, which was just exciting enough to be there. But then to get told I'm doing something with Liger, which was just mind blowing. And then hearing the reaction and getting eliminated by Liger and like that. I mean, that's as close as I've come. But that was that's only 17,000 people. But that was pretty
Don't undersell
that was pretty
that.
surreal.
Don't undersell.
Yeah.
The story is gonna be forever. I mean, what the story my grandkids are gonna hear is, hey, you want to hear about the time that your granddad sold out Madison Square Garden with Jushin Thunder Liger? You know, they were there to see
Grandma,
Milonas
who
and
won?
Liger.
Who won?
Yeah, 17,000 tickets sold to see Milonas and Liger. They weren't there to see Okada and Lethal and Taven and all these guys. They were there to see Milonas and Liger.
Hell yeah, man. That's incredible.
There's nothing like Madison Square Garden. There's just growing up in that area, and all my memories as a fan, all my favorite memories come from Madison Square Garden, come from being there at the Royal Rumble when John Cena surprised everybody as number 30, being at the Royal Rumble on its own is an amazing match, but being inside that venue, it just rumbles a little bit different. There's just a little bit
It's more intimate.
different feeling, and wrestling I think needs to be in those kind of venues. So you talked about Toronto and how big Toronto was and how create like 60,000-70,000. Do you guys feel better in the more intimate crowd when it's a little bit, smaller venue? Or I know some of you have probably wrestled outdoors now or wrestled on the road when it's bigger open air places or even with very little crowds. Where do you guys feel the most like that moment, the most like that you feel the electricity?
I mean, I'll just go on record and say wrestling outside sucks. I hate it. The noise just kind of, I mean, I think you hear a lot of the WWE guys after they work WrestleMania too. They talk about the noise. Just I think Austin talks about it a lot. Like the noise just goes up. There's nothing to hold it in. Yeah, I mean, I think no matter the size of the venue, it's really is if there's whatever the venue holds, if it's sold out. If you're in a venue that holds 200 and there's 200 people there, it feels amazing. If it holds 200 and there's 50, it sucks. If you're in a 10,000 seat arena and there's 10,000 people there, amazing. If there's 2,000, it sucks. So I think anywhere where, because when the crowd is full, it feels like people are on top of you, no matter how big the building is. When the buildings are full, it just feels like the crowd's on top of you, and that's what creates that awesome atmosphere. And it could be Madison Square Garden with 17,000, and it feels intimate because every seat is filled.
Or it could be Haverhill for freaking Cold Fury, Chaotic. Like those shows were like, because they fill it. And it's a high school gym, but they fill it, and it feels like its own little WrestleMania. Like those, I miss those shows.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, Brian. Like if a big building is full, it's great. If a small building is full, it's great. When a building, if the building's huge and it's half full, it's not it's not great. Like even if that's 1,000 people, it's like high school gyms tend to be like the go-to for wrestling shows, and it's always awkward. Like there's this ambiance of not being full. I don't know. You can feel it. We did a show in Portland that held maybe 50 people. Like it was a small bar, like real small, but it was full. Full. There was like 30 people there, but it was so loud and so intimate that it was wild. So I don't know if the size of the venue really matters as long as it's high energy.
Yeah, I couldn't say it better. Definitely.
All right, Val, do you have your very important question lined up?
The most important question for me, anyway. Either how do you prefer your pancakes on the regular, or what is the best pancakes you've ever had? Or are you a waffle person?
Rangers fan.
I'm a chocolate chip pancake guy. There's a couple places around here that got some pretty good pancakes, but I'm gonna throw some chocolate chips in them just about every time I have them.
Yeah.
I get so much shit for this. So I like pancakes. chocolate chips, blueberries, like something in pancake is great on occasion. But if I'm like, your question was like most regular, I eat my pancakes with no butter, no syrup, just straight pancake. And I get shit for it all the time.
Just like dry.
Dry pancakes. Yes. I don't know. I have other stuff too, the bacon and eggs, but pancakes dry, like that's what I most frequently do.
Interesting.
What an unpleasant experience that would be.
So you're like, you don't put like peanut butter or
Oh, question to that
My
is
tag partner,
torturing yourself.
my tag partner gives me so much shit for it.
You just like dry mouth? Is that?
Like, let me drink this glass of water with my pancakes.
Wow.
To each their own. To each their own.
Yeah.
I mean,
Syrup
I
in
love plain
Canada.
pancakes, but I also love putting like a scoop of vanilla on top, scoop of vanilla ice cream. Yeah, it's just great, and just normal butter syrup. Like that's what I think the best I've ever had. I don't know the place, unfortunately, but I have to talk to Brian. Smart Mark Sterling.
Yeah.
By where he lives now in Massachusetts, there's this little place. It's like I have to get the name from him because it was the best pancakes I've ever had. But it was like one of those just walk-in. It looks like a trailer. Like I don't even. It's like a really old school diner sort of thing. But it was like one of those just one row of seats diner. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like,
Yeah.
It's
It's kind of like the rule, I think, with like that type of food. It's got to be like a gritty place. It's got to be
Right,
The
exactly.
sketchier the place, the better the cakes.
What was that?
The sketchier the place, the better the pancakes.
Exactly. Yeah. So like, yeah.
Bear, I love you so much for that ice cream on pancakes I did. That's such like the ultimate fat kid
Dude.
thing. That made me so happy.
It's so good though.
Like a pancake sundae almost.
Yeah.
It's like ice cream.
We don't overdo
Throw
it.
some like
We don't over-
syrup on there.
I'm
Sprinkles,
like, how have I
whipped
never
cream.
done that? How have I never tried that?
It's
Is it
the
really
best.
fresh
Little
on
little
milk?
cinnamon sugar on there. Oh man.
Dude, you're killing me.
Oh, are we gonna
Bloody.
convert you to putting something on your pancakes?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I'll go all in on some crazy pancakes, but like most regularly it's dry. But man, you throw cinnamon sugar, some ice cream on there. Oh, amazing.
Ricky, you were talking about some hardcore wrestling stuff, and the craziest thing I've heard you say is you eat dry pancakes. I thought you were. I'm like, Ricky, hey, Ricky, I want to meet this dude. I want to work this dude. Like, I like this guy. Then you said you eat dry pancakes. I'm like, ugh, I'm out. Good. Psychopath. Total psychopath.
That's exactly what Eddie says. I'm a psychopath.
So we got a.
Sorry. I was gonna say, do you guys have any, like, go-to post match meals? Like, is there something you guys religiously will eat after a match? Greasy, deep fried.
I eat
Fried pancakes.
really clean until I wrestle because I have a sensitive stomach, so I could never eat whatever I want and go wrestle. I eat I'll drink over a gallon of water and I'll keep it like real clean, like clean chicken, whatever. After we wrestle, all bets are off. Like I eat anything. Like we'll go find wherever we are. We'll go find a place, sit down, and yeah. Which makes me hate my tag team partner because he has an iron stomach, and he I've seen him eat unbelievable things before we wrestle, and he's fine. And I just envy that. I wish I had that. But yeah, that's me.
I know the pancake story made me sound boring, but I love food too. It's for us, like post show, and it's never on purpose, but we always seem to wind up at Denny's. There's something like IHOP, Denny's, something like that.
You only
nothing else
ever
is
wind
open.
up at Denny's.
I know
Post show of my
it's
friend
terrible.
Denny's.
Or if we leave a show early, Buffalo Wild Wings is the place to go.
Sure. Wings is always a go-to.
Like the Denny's, Waffle House, IHOP, those always seem to be where I end up. My absolute favorite, and it's only it's like in Georgia, North Carolina. It's this place called Cookout. Unbelievable. So if you ever get down there, you like Cookout is like
South Carolina.
It's like $6, and you get you
It's
get
a tray.
a mountain of food.
You get a tray.
I've never been to a cookout, but I've heard like stories like it's mythical.
It is.
So
It's all the guy. It's funny. I the first couple times, first like 2 years with Ring of Honor, for whatever reason, I was always left off the North Carolina show, and then last year I actually got to go, and now I've gone a few times. I was like, and they always would build it up. They'd always would build it up. They'd always would build it up, and like, yeah, it's something special. I will say there's also something to and you guys, Ricky, Barry, appreciate this. Nothing's open. The gas station,
Yeah.
gas station is like Slim Jim, bag of Doritos, and usually like some gummy bears or something.
Absolutely.
3-course meal.
That's where, like, if you want to catch me in a bad mood, like, it'll be because of that. Like, especially when you're coming back from like those, like, if you ever like, it was for us, it was always coming back from Canada, where like, be like just coming over the border, and then you're going through most of the bulk of New York, and there's just nothing open beside, like, your diet for the rest of the until you get home is like bags of chips.
They just got shawarma to go. There's shawarma places everywhere here.
There, yeah, but when I'm coming home, no, there is great. I love working in Canada. It's so much fun. But when I cross that border coming back home, I'm living off of bags of chips. Like, it's,
yeah, you're a New York, Jersey guy. Wawa, come on, man.
yeah, but that's
Where's the
way
Wawa?
later though. Like the bulk of New York, like that whole
No,
forbidden.
I mean just in general. How is that not your answer? That's like the.
Oh yeah, I mean wow. I mean, I feel like that's a boring answer. If anybody from New York or like New Jersey listens to this, they're gonna be like, oh, yeah.
Lame
I got a great Denny stories if we have a couple minutes. So I wrestled this tag team match. In Washington. It was the first time that as a tag team we were there, and we kind of wanted to stand out a little bit. And there was these two kids that were from Canada, and they were super hot. Like fans loved them, and they wrestled barefoot. And when we saw them, instantly my tag partner's like, we got to put their toes into their mouth. Like that was the first thought that he had, is we're gonna put their toes in their mouth. And so we built this whole match around them like forcibly putting their toes in our mouth. And it was a lot of fun. The match was hilarious. It got some great reactions. But afterwards, on the drive home, the only thing open was Denny's. So we stopped at Denny's, and this lady, kind of a nice lady, whatever, took her order, brought our food, and she sets my plate down, and like something falls off, like chicken strip or something falls off the plate. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry about that. I was like, don't worry about it. I've had a grown man's toes in my mouth. I'm not worried about it. And she completely phased me. She's like, well, if there's anything else you need, let me know, and just walks away.
Ugh.
Oh gosh.
how was that like the first instinct? Just be like, yep, we're doing it. Like putting someone's toes in your mouth.
Fair appendage. Let's go.
That's Eddie.
So the reason it was that way is we watched their match. The previous month was against Chris Bay and his tag partner, and the four of them went bananas. Like one of those, I can't remember the thing you said, but like sprint through it. Like they went all out. And we're watching, like, we're not going to be able to do that. We have to do something different and innovative. We're gonna make them put their feet in our mouth.
We're gonna suck on their toes.
We got chance like feet forever, and
Feet forever.
feet forever.
Did you also get hand, foot, and mouth disease?
The worst part about the story is that we wrestled them 3 more times and did it all 3 times.
Oh,
It's like your spot now.
yeah.
Oh, God.
It was worth it. I don't
You
know.
lost me at pose. I'm sorry.
See, I would hate if you did that and like you hear a little golf clap, like and then you
Oh yeah.
you get no pop and you just got some guy's toes in your mouth. You're like,
Yeah, that's like the worst feeling of the world anyways, when you think something's gonna kill and it's like no reaction. Yeah, could you imagine if it's putting another dude's toe in your mouth?
toes in your mouth.
Well, this is a weird turn.
Well,
All right.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
What can I say?
We got a question. We got Captain Chuckles in the chat. He didn't make it on tonight, but he's in the chat. So we'll. Speaking of being able to go back and undo stuff, time travel. If you could time travel, would you time travel in the DeLorean from Back to the Future, or the phone booth from Bill and Ted?
DeLorean.
DeLorean.
I am a huge fan of Back to the Future. Probably my all-time favorite trilogy. And I know that's going to cause a lot of controversy, but I don't care.
Not for me. I love it.
Nah, yeah,
Love it.
I'm right there with you. Yeah, no, for sure.
No more controversial than eating dry pancakes.
That might be the most sane thing you've said all night, actually.
Okay, good.
Let's see if there's any more questions in the chat before we
Moving on.
move on to something else. I believe Wrestling with the MA was talking about, has there been anyone in your career that you've been surprised that they've gotten over? Anybody that stands out to you, maybe that you didn't expect to get to where they are today, but not in a bad terms, obviously. Maybe just somebody who was able to overcome something or get to a point today where they're over now.
I'll say, this is a guy I came up with, Tommaso Ciampa, and not for any other reason than just how many injuries. Same. It's funny. The two guys I'm probably closest to, him and Ivar, the Viking Raiders. Both of those guys, if you know their story, suffered so many injuries, so many career-ending situations. Ivar's out right now, with a neck injury. But those guys have both overcome so much to get to the point they're at, and I say Tommaso just because he's active right now, and he just went through neck surgery and came back, and he's now a linchpin on the NXT brand for WWE. Like I think just to see, if you saw him he's one of those guys. If you saw him on his first day of wrestling school, you'd never have pegged him, to be there. But he's also the hardest worker and the most determined human being I've ever met in my life.
Bear, what do you got?
So I'm sorry, Alex, I was reading. So could you repeat the question again?
So is there anybody that you've come up with or you've seen in your training or your 5 years wrestling that you didn't expect to get as far or to get over?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So we always knew Chris Statlander she was just naturally talented and just naturally a really good athlete. But a lot of us weren't sure about the alien thing. We kind of were like, when we heard her come up with the idea, we were like, maybe, I don't know. It was like, when I was like, all right, maybe try it, and if it fails, like, it's cool that you could say you tried it. And like, we were dead wrong. Like, it was.
Well, because she is an alien, right? Like that's.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I could have smartened us up to that, but whatever. But yeah. So probably that deal, And then you have MJF where he walks in the first day and we're like, oh, he's going to be a TV star. Cool.
It's interesting with the Chris Statlander because it's betting on yourself sometimes too, right? Like going all in on whatever you think what feels right or whatever you think is not only a character, but it's you. Because I think a lot of times we've talked to a couple different people and the easiest character for them is some version of themselves on 11, right? Turning themselves up a little bit higher. And that's the character. The character is themselves just a little bit more intense.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if I have anyone that like really surprises me that they made it. I guess like Anthony Green or August Gray was kind of a shock because he's such a goofy kid. Like he came out for WCWC a couple times here to Oregon and did a bunch in Vegas with him. and he's such a weird guy, but like there's something about him. You're like, yeah, I can see this guy making it, but it's still kind of strange to see.
Yeah, that's a good one. He was a ref up here. He started as like a 15-year-old kid, like ref, and if you saw a picture of him,
right?
He was kind of fat, kind of gangly, like,
Yep.
you know, and
Yeah.
he was such a funny looking kid. But again, he's another one of those guys that just he bets on himself, works his ass off. He's so determined. He wasn't. I mean, that kid has not been in the business that long, and he's had about 75 different gimmicks just because it's like not afraid to try something, not afraid to try something new, and one of the good guys too in pro wrestling, like
definitely
one of the good people.
All right, Vintage Val, do you have any other questions? Because I have one very important question that I have to ask
think we
everybody.
should get to the important question.
We have to ask the most important question of the night. And as Ricky knows, no other question that we've asked so far matters except this question. So Brian, I'm going to start with you. Are you a single stuff Oreo person? Or do you prefer the double stuff Oreo?
Bro, look at me. Look at me. I mean, you think I'm going to waste my time with single stuffed Oreos? You know, give me the double stuffed all day. I grew up on double stuffed. I'm a double stuffed guy to this day. Ice cold glass of milk. Let's do it.
Glass of milk. Thank you. That Captain Chuckles, a glass of milk, you weirdo. Never dunked his Oreos.
What?
I don't like milk.
I'm not a big milk guy either, but if you have Oreos, you got to dunk the Oreos. I don't think I've ever eaten an Oreo not dunked.
Why would I want a soggy Oreo?
Why would you want
a soggy
delicious,
pancake? Val. Very simple answer to that question. They're delicious.
Bear Bronson. Single stuff Oreos or double stuff Oreos?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a single stuff, it just doesn't feel like right to me. That's just like, I feel like it has to be, just from being conditioned to double stuff, it just has to be double stuff. That's just me. I know a lot. That's a very polarizing question. But yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah. No. They're
single stuff.
It should be regular stuffed and like half stuffed.
There are people that feel like it's too much and then forget about triple stuff. There are people that there are cults against triple stuff.
Yep. This question has basically torn our podcast apart, and we are ripped at the seams and fighting daily about it.
I'm not fighting. I agree with you.
I'm a facker. I'm a double stuffed gal.
I don't know about the mega stuffed or whatever those giant ones are, like, because I think the double stuff is like, it's like harmony. It's perfect. It's perfect balance.
I also love the chocolate ones, like the chocolate in the center. Oh my god, those are so good. Too good. Dangerously good.
See, for me, I just take all the icing off and just eat the cookie part.
Oh my god.
I'm kidding. No, I'm joking. That'd be wild.
My sister does that.
Does he just like dry things?
Get this guy out of here.
I was like, after that,
I'm a double stuffed all the way. Double stuffed all the way.
Take my dry Oreos and put them on my dry pancake and roll it up.
Drink them with my glass of water.
A little known fact: Ricky Gibson just loves to eat like multiple devil dogs without taking a drink for 4 hours.
Sitting there eating saltines. It's like,
Dry Ricky Gibson.
Oh, jeez.
I like it.
So we've had a lot of fun. I'm going to give everybody a little bit of time to put themselves over. Tell everybody where they can go find you. Brian, we can start with you. Where can everybody go find you on social media?
Yeah, I'm at Brian Milonas. You'll see a lot of angry sports rants. So I'm just going to warn you now. So, if you want to buy a T-shirt, BrianMilonas.com. Find me on Instagram, Brian Milonas KP. And then if you'd like to just watch me wrestle, I wrestle for Ring of Honor. Check out Ring of Honor TV weekly. Look at your local listings, and always on the Fight Network. But thanks for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
It's been a blast. Yeah, Thanks, Brian. We'll go check you out. I'll make sure to get all those tags out there. We'll tweet you like crazy, and I will be buying a t-shirt.
Now. He's important.
I do.
Oh,
I am Twitter verified.
Ooh,
Twitter
fancy.
verified.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, I'm kind of a big deal, guys. I didn't want to mention it, you
It
know.
wasn't the
but,
garden, it was the check mark.
Yeah, I mean, I've sold out the garden. I'm Twitter verified. Like,
Dude, like,
I mean, I'm in the presence of royalty here, so.
Not worthy.
how much do you have to pay for the seminar?
I usually charge 35.
Perfect. Awesome. That fits my budget. Awesome. It's great.
All right, so Bear Bronson, where can the folks go find you? Other than AEW Dark, which you guys are regulars now, it seems like we're seeing the
We'll see. I don't
Bear
know.
Country out there.
Stars, but we'll see about that. But yeah, you could find my matches right now on AEW Dark. We had two, like counting tonight. There's two of them now. You can find me on Instagram at Bear Bronson _ and Twitter at Bear Bronson BC. You can also find me on Pro Wrestling Tees under, you should just be Bear Bronson. I should change that to Bear Country, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, because most of the merch is Bear Country merch. But yeah, and that's all. Thank you guys so much for having me. This was a blast, man. This is so much fun. I'd love to do. I'm looking forward to doing it again.
It's a great kickoff so far to our fundraiser. And speaking of our fundraiser, Ricky Gibson, one of our alumni from the Bald Monkeys podcast. Obviously now Brian and Bear, you guys are now alumni too. So welcome to the club. We have jackets, we have meetings. But Ricky, tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, I am probably most active on Twitter at RockinRickyG or at 4 Minutes of Heat. You can find me on Instagram at RockGod_ man, I already forgot. Rock God Ricky Gibson. There's some underscores in there. If you just search Ricky Gibson, you'll find me. I'm on Facebook too, but no one uses that anymore, I don't think. And then you can find me at Brainbusters Tees and search 4 Minutes of Heat. You'll find us on there as well. Yeah.
Awesome stuff, guys. So just a quick tally. My tally marker broke. So we haven't been able to keep track of the fundraiser, but we are at $86 on night one of the fundraiser. So we are on our way to raising those funds. It is a marathon.
Some syrup.
So we got to go out, buy Ricky some syrup and get some syrup on his pancakes, sprinkle some
syrup.
Yeah. Everyone mail your syrup to Ricky.
Ricky, you got a P.O. box, right? You want to mention the P.O. box?
I do. I posted my P.O. box and I got some really cool stuff in the mail. Some really cool, some really weird stuff. P.O. box.
Please give it, because if anybody watching this, please send this man some maple syrup.
P.O. Box 274, Hubbard, Oregon 97032. Mail me some syrup. I'll do some taste tests online or something.
Oh my God.
No pancakes. But yeah, if you do taste tests, I just want you to chug the syrup. No, you can't put it on the pancake.
I will.
Yeah, I know you will.
If that's what it takes.
I know you will.
It's Super Trooper style, you know?
Yes, I'm down. I'm down.
Gosh.
Well, thank you guys for joining. We'll be sure to definitely go check you all out. I got some new t-shirts coming. Hang out after. We're going to take a quick break here. We'll send the stream to Be Right Back screen. But thanks you guys for joining. It was a blast having this roundtable. Vintage, Val, thank you guys for hanging out. Day one's in the books. Let's take a breather. One of us will be back. Some of us will be back. I'm going to let these guys go. They got other stuff to do. But thank you guys again. Really appreciate it. And go check out the Bald Monkeys podcast.
You.
We'll be right back.